Hi Aditya, good to see you during this lockdown, and thank you for agreeing for this interview.
Thanks, Pratap. Thanks, it's a pleasure.
Hope you're staying safe and healthy.
Yeah, it's been okay. It's been actually quite successful. I think we can get a lot done from home. I think this has been a lot of success, and I think going forward, a lot of companies, not just us, will be working from home. So I think it's actually been a very successful, and we're enjoying the family time. Spending some time on my self improvement as well. But yeah, it's been quite good.
So your the embassy group has a large footprint over the real estate. You want to tell us what all do you all are involved in?
Yeah, so I'll just give you a short background of the group. So we started, in the late 80s, predominantly in the residential space. Back then the IT inflow hadn't really come into India. So we were in the luxury segment at the time, selling residential units. In the early 2000s, we saw a massive inflow of IT companies coming into India for outsourced back-end labor, and at the time, our chairman and my father took that, capitalized on that opportunity, and started a new concept of business parks. We were building standalone offices in the city center. Strata selling those to investors to generate cash flow. But then started aggregating large pieces of land and build these total business environments for these tenants. IBM, Microsoft, Yahoo, one of our first few tenants. IBM is our largest tenant today, and it was a huge success. So we then wanted to capitalize more on the office. Of course, we kept producing more residential apartments as well, but we slightly moved our focus to more office. And we saw great success with that. Today, we have partners across various different assets, across various different countries. Blackstone being our largest. We've listed some of those stabilized assets into a REIT. We got into new asset classes by default. That complementary hospitality, for example, is something that is located in every one of our office parks, and it's been a great success because it adds value to the park. So it's like an amenity, almost like a clubhouse in a residential complex. Warehousing is something that's quite interesting. We saw our existing tenants asking for the need for warehousing. When we did, the math behind it, we pretty much saw the same thing. The rents are lower, but the construction cost is cheaper and the land cost is cheaper. So we actually saw this as a futuristic asset class to be in. And back in 2012, we actually partnered up with Warburg Pincus, a fund, similar scale to as a Blackstone, and went out on this venture. We believe that it's going to be hugely successful. It has been hugely successful. We believe with e-commerce and the industrial side of it growing in India. Just to give you a small stat, only 1.5% of India's retail is online. This is pre-COVID, obviously, compared to America, which is 15%. That's a huge difference and a huge growth capacity. And the more digitalization that's happening, the faster that is. So we actually think the need for storage spaces near consumption hubs is going to be huge. There's a lot of consolidation that's going to happen from your illegal, non-compliant warehousing to your grade A quality. You have Amazon who just signed with us. It's a big name. They can't afford to, be in a non-compliant space and risk that. So there's a huge shift happening, and we're one of the few players that are in the space right now. So that's one of our newer verticals. And then, of course, the two newer ones that we've got into is WeWork. Partnered up with the largest co-working company. We think that's complementary to the office. And now we've just launched co-living under the brand Olive, which we think will disrupt residential and change the way people live.
Your industrial warehousing facility is 108 acres and around 3 million square feet, and you've leased out say
Yeah,
50% of this facility already.
yeah, that's correct. So that's one of our parks in Farooq Nagar, and we have 5 other parks that are operational right now.
Similar sizes.
Farooq Nagar is the biggest one. We have Bilaspur, that's around half that size. We have Chakran, that's also around half that size. We have something in Hosur that we're just breaking ground on, and then something in Hyderabad that we're just firming up.
So location is a very key element in getting this model right. So obviously you all have already exercised your judgment in that. Um, but with changing landscape, you have to keep future in mind as well. So transportation, etc. Tell
Right.
me something about that planning that you got.
Yeah, like every business, location is key. And then also with this business in particular, location is even more key because you have to also factor in the land cost, because that's really where the margin is made, and where this business becomes viable. In terms of construction costs, there's only so much you can optimize to provide a grade A quality space, and we don't squinch on that. So it's really the land cost, but then of course the right land has to also have the right infrastructure. So a lot of times we actually look at land that has existing infrastructure, existing industrial and warehousing hubs that have highway connectivity. But in some cases, we actually go and build out that destination. So Farooq Nagar in NCR, for example, over 100 acres. We went there, we started aggregating the land. There was nothing close to us. Now we have all cargo of our neighbors on the other side. But we created that destination. It's extremely viable from a commercial point of view because the land cost is much lower. We got in clients, and today it's our best park. It's our showpiece park. So we will continue this combination of looking at existing hotspots, but also if there's availability to aggregate large pieces of land, we can actually create those destinations. And we've done that from the office side. Embassy Manyata being the perfect example of a 110-acre park, where there's nothing in north of Bangalore, but we created that kind of destination. And the trick to that is you probably lose money initially. You probably do deals, get in anchored deals, and then kind of build it up. But when you look at an overall project, it's absolutely viable. It's amazing.
So tell me, post COVID, I think the reliance on automation is obviously going to grow. How are you
Right.
factoring this into your industrial parks?
Right. So I think post COVID, this asset class is one of the classes that's going to boom the most. Of course, the e-commerce shift has been more profound in the last few months. I think that's given people a lot of encouragement that it can be successful, and from the e-commerce side, gives them more bullish growth because they need it. There's a lot of need for retail goods online. So I think e-commerce is a no-brainer. It's something that's going to be hugely profound. We always were bullish on it, but this just helped accelerate that. So amazing. From the industrial side, I think this is very interesting. This is where the government can be more involved. This is where India needs to capitalize on the China opportunity, is what I call it. A lot of firms are going to be hesitant on setting up factories in China. Now, India historically have been more in the service sector. 55% of the outsourcing in the world happens in India. Our biggest GDP is obviously in the services, and commercial office space has boomed because of that. But now is the opportunity to actually capitalize on the manufacturing unit. It's not very skilled labor. We have the population, we have the capability. I think with the help of the government to ease out land restrictions, zonings, consumptions on land, even just going even further on the tax side, I think really the industrial side has a big opportunity to capitalize on this right now.
So, in industrial, as I would think that there is a need to have complementary services within a particular industry. So, if you're able to service a particular segment, it may makes more sense and adds great value to the tenants out there. Is this part
Right.
of your planning as well?
Yeah, so we encourage our tenants to take up more space within our park, and then also keep various different boxes or warehouses for them to grow into. 3PLs, which is more than 60% of our tenant base, for them it's hugely efficient because they then go out and sublease their space to an Amazon, Flipkart, various other players. For them to be in the same park or close vicinity, their transportation costs, their whole logistics costs, economies of scale basically. So we do encourage it, and we actually do see it in Farooq Nagar. We have stellar who have, they are largest tenant there. They have various different clients, including Amazon, all part of the same park, and that gives us an advantage because in many ways we have an advantage over other parks, even if we're charging higher rent, because the economies and the cost is just more efficient being in our park.
So in
That
the
makes
past,
sense.
the government had helped IT sector and SEZs with better FSIs. If you were catering to the needs of that industry, why do you think?
Right.
Of course, Make in India is a big program for India, and like you rightly said, it is India's opportunity to grab the manufacturing hubs from China. Um,
Right.
why do you? So, what other reasons do you think government should therefore encourage such industrial parks?
Right. I mean, look, they to be fair to the government, they have been hugely supportive to warehousing and in the industrial sector as a whole. So, kudos to them. There are few things that could, help and give us that advantage, as they have done with the IT. For example, the SEZ aspect of it. Passing on that benefit to developers, passing on that benefit to the end users is something that we haven't seen, and would be great to just promote the growth of one new supply coming in, but obviously absorption as well, and making that more viable. Ground coverage, allowing people to build more on these lands, on the on industrial lands. I think zoning, land zoning is important because you're buying lands that are owned by several different farmers. The aggregation process is really complicated. What you can do there is really restricted. So we have a lot of land in India, but it's very hard to put it all together and get a single approval. So single window clearance. Um, but to be fair to the government, they have been hugely supportive, and we're quite optimistic that they will help capitalize on this opportunity as well.
Don't you already have an infrastructure status as far as industrial parks are concerned?
Right. So that's one of the examples, that makes financing cheaper. It's just hugely beneficial and makes the whole economics of this industry viable. So that's one great example. GST, of course, has indirectly helped the entire sector as a whole. So we've been actually pretty happy with how the government is approaching the sector.
And what are future plans?
So future plans, we you see absorption. It's literally almost doubling year on year on year. We want to capitalize on it. We feel that this is another asset class that we could replicate what we've done with the office. Now, whether that's putting that into a REIT structure, and bringing in investors, or just holding this in with our current investor and growing this portfolio as large as possible. Both are lucrative options. I think the REIT, we've seen a lot of success from the office, and we're encouraging more people to come out with REITs. We can evaluate that once we have a sizable portfolio, over 25 million square feet, and see if that's a model, and how the REIT markets in India are going to react to an industrial REIT. Different kind of cap rates, different rent escalation. So it's not something that we can just add to our existing REIT. It's going to be a whole new REIT by itself. But the REIT is definitely something that we have our eyes on. And like I said, it's been hugely successful. So we believe that we can take this portfolio upwards of 100 million square feet over the next decade. Easily achievable from the growth and the demand side of it. Now it's more on the execution. Can we actually execute it? Can we buy land fast enough? And can we cope up with the demand? Because the demand is there for sure.
Thank you, Aditya Virwani. Thank you for speaking to
Yeah.
us. It's been very
Thank you, Pratap.
interesting. All the best, and stay healthy and stay safe during this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All my best. Thank you very much.